ETSU, Dr. Brian Nolan told us he was going to resurrect football. And then he called over to music department over there and he said, we're getting the band back together. We're on a mission from God. So the music department got busy. I guess it's the music department. And they called down there and they got Dr. Joe Moore is the Associate Director of Bands at East Tennessee State University in Johnson City. He taught 16 years in the public schools of Tennessee, Virginia, and Georgia, as well as the Delta State University in Mississippi. He received degrees from ETSU, grew up in Bristol, born in Maryville. Degrees from the University of Miami, Florida, and the University of Kentucky. In 2014, Dr. Moore was hired to restart the marching band program at ETSU, which had been inactive for 13 years. Under his leadership, the ETSU Marching Bucs have grown to the largest band in school history and with over 300 members. Recently, the band received the prestigious honor of being selected for the 2024 Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City. ETSU is the only college band from Tennessee since 1960 to receive this honor. In addition, the ETSU Color Guard and Majorettes have been invited to open their performance of the Radio City Music Hall Christmas Spectacular during the band's visit to New York City. Dr. Moore is an active composer, arranger, adjudicator, clinician, and guest conductor for high school and university bands throughout the country. He has with him today also an Assistant Director, Riley Fox. Let's give him a warm Kiwanis welcome.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here to talk about my very favorite people in the world, and that's my students. Let's just clear up the biggest accolade that I have is being a miniature Schnauzer owner. As Susan said, we enjoy sharing stories about our four-legged fur babies. Congratulations on your 100th anniversary. That's spectacular. So congratulations to you all for that. I have with me Mr. Riley Fox, who is our Assistant Director of Athletic Bands. Riley was actually the first head drum major of the reformed Marching Bucs. He went on to University of Tennessee to get his master's in trombone performance. And then we were very fortunate to be able to hire him to come back and work with us as the band continued to grow. It was just too much for me by myself. And so at first it was kind of an hourly position, and then with the outstanding work that he did and the continued growth and the incredible support of Dr. Nolan, our administration, his position evolved into a faculty position. He is in charge of the Buccaneer Brass, which is our basketball pep band for men's and women's, and he has grown that ensemble in both quality and quantity. And they're a force to be reckoned with at ETSU basketball games. And football will become a force again, we hope. But Riley has done some extensive research on the history of the program. So what we wanted to do is just give you a little bit of history of the ETSU band program. And so I'm going to turn that over to him at this point.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. Again, my name is Riley Fox. A lot of people do not really know the history of the band program at ETSU in general. They think when football went away in 2003, the entire band program went away. Well, marching band went away. Basketball pep band still stayed. The concert bands were still there. But through all the history of the program, nobody really kept up with track of who was here when, and we didn't have a lot of pictures. We don't have any uniforms from the past. So I've really been trying to dedicate all the extra free time that I have to finding out, just the history of this spectacular band program that we're lucky to be in charge of. So the history of the university started in 1911. It was started as a normal school, and that was just to train rural public educators in East Tennessee. So the history of the university in and of itself is a teaching school, and we take pride in the growth of the music department and the amount of music education students that we put out in the area. The first band Actually, let me backtrack. The first football team at ETSU wasn't until 1920. So it was a little bit after the start of the program. They tried to start football a couple years before that. Didn't really happen. So that first fall, they only played 2 competitive games, and they lost both of them. So it happens. The first band did not take place until the fall of 1935. This is a picture of the first band. It was actually in the spring semester because they did not have uniforms for those first 2 games. So the uniforms that they were wearing at this time was similar to other high school and university bands at the time, more of a military style uniform because the bands developed out of ROTC units and the military in general. So that was taken in what is now Gilbert Hall. That room does not exist anymore, but you can see the amount of instrumentation. 30 members, pretty good sized band for the size of the school at the time. You can go to the next slide. And the first band director was Dr. Mondale Ely Butterfield. He was at ETSU from 1935 until the mid-60s. He was there for a long time. Was band director, as you can see, from 1935 to 48. The band, under his direction, really stayed around that size from 30 to 50 members, just because the size of the university really didn't grow all that much. And he was actually, after he was the band director, he was the chair of the music department, really helped grow the music department in general, and was also the first president and co-founder of ETSBOA, which is the governing body of all the Tennessee school systems in East Tennessee. As the next few years grew a little bit, did not have a color guard. We were very fortunate to have a very large color guard. We have 40, what do we have this year? I think it's 46 students in the color guard this year. So it's a huge growth from what was at this time. It really wasn't a thing. They were called flag twirlers. And they were added in 1942, right before the start of World War II. And there was also no band from 1945 or 44 to 45, but there were bands before that. And can you go to the next one? Oh, I'm actually a little bit ahead. So this is just a little bit of the history of the different band directors that we have. This goes up until 2003 when the program was dropped. As you can see, Dr. Moore was actually the band director in 2002. As that program, there's also some people on here, some names that you may recognize. Susan in the back was in the band under the direction of Ken Large during the late 1960s when the band did travel with the football team to play at the Grant Long Rice Bowl. Bill Scott was a band director at Elizabethton High School before he came to ETSU, so a lot of these names are familiar. Wilkes Bobbitt actually started the band program at Unicoi County High School before he was at ETSU, so a lot of local connection to a lot of local people were directors of the ETSU band. Next slide. So another thing that we take a very large pride in is the amount of female drum majors that we've had of the band. A lot of schools, especially universities, unfortunately did not allow women to participate in bands due to whatever reasons. I see a lot. I follow a lot of other band programs, and they're proud of this is their first female drum major that they had just a couple of years ago. As you can see, our first female drum major was actually in 1942. So if you go back, if you paid attention to that first picture, there were women in the band from the very first year. They didn't play typical instruments, not flute, clarinet. They were female trumpet players, horn players. So the diversity of the band throughout the entire course and history of the ETSU band has featured men and women equally, which we're very, very proud of. We have another young lady who's going to be a drum major from Maryville High School. She was a drum major at Maryville High School, and she was recently selected as one of our drum majors for the fall semester of 2024, so she will be one of the drum majors as we go to Macy's. And then I have a couple pictures. These are just the majorettes that we've had. This was in the 1950s. You can kind of see how the style has grown and changed and developed over the course of time. This was from the 60s. I'm not really sure when this was, Susan. You may know. That might be one of the Yeah, I should have put names on the bottom of that, but if anybody is interested, if you were in the band or know somebody who was in the band, I'd love to talk to you. If you have pictures or other stories about the history of the band, because I'm really involved with trying to document everything that we have. Okay, skipped a couple people. Next big director was Marvin Lindley. He really grew the band from the mid 40s size to 100 members in 1957. Started traveling to away games. which is a first for the band. And then also was one of the very first to have a high school band day, but brought in local and regional high school students to perform with the marching band at ETSU. I don't know if there were actually 800 members on the field for that game with 12 high school bands from East Tennessee, but that's what was documented. And then another really important thing for me is he was the first one to start the basketball bands at ETSU in the 1950s. So here's a couple other pictures. At the top left, that's Wilkes Bobbitt and Eugene Orner. This picture on the bottom left was from the 50th year of the university in 1961. And then that's the two directors on the far right side are Wilkes Bobbitt and Eugene Orner, and then the man in the middle, unfortunately, just recently passed away. That's Jerry Cole, who was a longtime director at Science Hill High School. He was a drum major at ETSU, and actually taught my dad how to play trombone. My father was a Kiwanian in the Johnson City Kiwanis Club, and it's a big reason why I'm here today. So, pretty cool connection between my dad and Jerry Cole and the history of the ETSU band. We move on. This goes into the 1960s with the change of uniform. Still more or less the military style that we had. I don't really think that those uniforms were very attractive. They were a mainly gray-bodied suit with blue with gold epaulets. Didn't really look that great. But on the far right side, with the ETSU drum major uniform, the traditional one, I think it's just a phenomenal picture. That drum major's name was Lanny Julian. No relation to W.J. Julian, I believe. Another really interesting thing that I found out that the ROTC department at ETSU didn't know was there was actually two bands at ETSU for about a decade, from the 50s through the 60s. They also did not keep track of everything. They competed nationally, and from what I can tell, it was a student-led organization. This was more or less the same military style that bands did in the beginning of the 1900s. They did more military style marching, 6-5 marching, flanks, counter marches, all that other stuff. And there were students that did both. And as you can see, the student leader of this band was a female in the middle. Her name was Ann Parrott. So another tradition, or a very special thing that the females have always been very involved with the success of the ETSU bands program. Next slide. Here's some more pictures. The top left is in Brooks Gym, if you recognize that, which is the home of the ROTC program. And then this bottom field is actually where the dome sits currently, which was where the football stadium was. You can kind of see the band over here in the corner playing. So they did a lot of play for the military maneuvers and everything. So another really interesting fact is that the ROTC band at ETSU won a national championship for the National ROTC Band Championship. It took place at the 1965 World's Fair in New York. It was a 2-day competition. They had a concert competition and a marching competition. And ETSU won the competition portion and finished second in the marching, but won overall due to the tabulation of points. And if you're interested, there's a really cool video on YouTube that has the audio of this band playing. I think they sound pretty spectacular. So the ROTC band did not, for whatever reason, did not really last very long after 1965. Oh, no, that was the audio. I forgot that I put that in there. So it is on YouTube. It's not a video portion of it. I asked the man who runs that channel if he had any videos of the ETSU band then, but he does not. He was with the Pennsylvania Military College, who was the person who finished second. This would be the band that Susan was in the back in the late 1960s under the direction of Ken Large. I've seen many different titles that this band was called. The most frequent one that I've seen is they were called the Band with the Sound, or the Sound for short. And this band played at the Grant Long Rice Bowl in 1969, and they took the transition from this field into the dome. So that's kind of the time frame that happened with this portion of the band. The style of music and the style of drill that the band did change under direction of Ken Large. They went away from more end-zone to end-zone marching to more performing to the sideline. So it took the direction of band performances for more marches and everything to more popular music to entertain the crowds. That's what happened then. And then these next few are a couple pictures. The one on the bottom right is one of the first color pictures that you can see of the band. They're kind of sitting in the middle. Over here it's kind of blurry, but that's at a football game. Next slide. And I really would like to have a lot of these other uniforms that we don't have. There used to be one of the overlays at the top left where it says ETSU across the chest that hung up in the Johnson City Zaxby's off of Run Street. And I asked if we could get that back, and they said no. So if you know anybody who is with that Zaxby's, I would love to have that uniform hanging in Mathis Hall. Okay. Another big name, I skipped a couple people. It's already talked about Bill Scott. After Bill Scott, actually, who was after Bill? I can't remember off the top of my head. Another big name was Joe Herman. He was at ETSU for 5 years. He started his teaching career, collegiate teaching career at ETSU. Did a lot of really spectacular things for the band program, and grew to its largest number before the drop of football to around 180 students. He was only here for 5 years, and he went to finish his career from fall of 1984 to the end of his career as director of bands at Tennessee Tech. Fantastic human being, very supportive of the band program at ETSU. And a big thing that he did was he took the marching Bucs to perform at the Atlanta Falcons game, which I have pictures of a little bit. So took the band, changed the uniforms in the more popular style of the 1970s with the hat that they had there. I don't know people if you know the name Mark Hoskins, but the trumpet player on the right, that's Mark Hoskins playing. Yeah, Leif, I know you know who he is. So really cool logo, cool uniforms, and he started putting pictures on the field, so spelling out ETSU and the ET logo. These are some pictures from the Dome when he was here. So you can see the size of the band started to grow throughout the 70s. And I think, yes, this is at the Atlanta Falcons game. A pretty packed crowd at the old Fulton County Stadium. So with 180, I think it was 181, 182 students. So a big, very large band for the size of the university at the time. And then I think this was at a high school band day. That's just a really cool picture with the outline of the United States and the spelling out of USA. Okay, and then we all know what happened with the drop football team. It wasn't competitive. The university administration at the time said it was losing a lot of money, so football was dropped. It was announced in advance. Numbers plummeted for the history of the football program, or the marching band at the time. And Dr. Moore can now take over and talk about what happened in the final years and as we started to develop the band that we have now. So thank you.
So there's an organization called the College Band Directors National Association, and they have sort of a formula that a university band their enrollment should match about 1% of undergraduate enrollment of the university. 1% of undergraduate enrollment at ETSU would be around 13,000 or so. So the ideal target for the band would have been 130 members. I was hired in 2014 to restart the band with the idea that in 2015, the first year they were actively playing football, we would have a pep band that sat in the stands. And then by the next year, there would be a marching band of about 100 members. As I was working that first year in 2014 and talking with students throughout the region and on campus, several of them said, you know, I'm in color guard, and next year's gonna be my last year of college, and there's nothing for me to do in pep band. And I just started tallying up the interest we had and realized that we could put a band on the field a year ahead of schedule. And so I went to the administration and asked them if they would release the funds for uniforms and instruments. And they did. Dr. Nolan is a band member. His wife was also a band member and very supportive of all of the students at ETSU, but they have that band connection. And so they released the funds, and we came out the first year with over 160 members. Now, previously, the largest band in ETSU history had been about 180. By the third year, we had broken 200, and this year we had 315. So our target should have been 130 members, and so we're sort of blowing that out of the water. And you can't just do that through recruiting. That has to be maintained through retention. And so we're very, very happy that our students feel like it's such a family atmosphere that they continue to be in band. as much as they can. We have some nursing students that can only do it for a couple of years and then their rotation blocks start and they can't. But we have students who march the entire time, 4 years, or in case of some more. But they enjoy being in the band program. And so even as it gets larger, we're still very happy that it has that family feeling to it. We have grown in all areas. We've been able to add some staff members, and I certainly credit our amazing staff for the work that gets done and for what's accomplished. We have amazing students. We do try to get out in the area and do some exhibitions at high school contests and make sure that the students see us. And we want to make sure we put a product on the field that students want to be a part of. I was speaking with our new student leadership team recently, and one of the students said, I remember seeing the band in high school, and we did a show in which we did Michael Jackson's Thriller, and the band did the Thriller dance. He said, I knew at that point I wanted to be in the band there. So because it's something a little different, and it's fun. It's still good quality, but it's fun, and it's something a little different than the intense competitiveness. Each year we try to go do an exhibition in Bristol at Music in the Castle, which is the competition held in the Stone Castle. It's just a cool venue because of the stadium. But every year we have comments from parents and students that they're just thrilled with the performance, and that's sort of when they make their decision, I want to be a part of that. And so we're excited about the growth of the program. But it is all due to our amazing staff, our amazing students, and the support of our administration at ETSU. It is not uncommon when we go do an exhibition that we have several faculty members from within the Department of Music come and support the band. This year at Bristol, the chairman of our department drove to watch the band perform. Our trombone professor, our saxophone professor, our clarinet professor, all drove up to watch the band. And so I was an undergraduate at ETSU, and then I taught in the area for a number of years, and I can honestly say that this is the most cohesive, most talented, and most supportive music faculty that I've ever seen at this university. So I'm very excited about that, and all of those things contribute to what we were able to accomplish. It is certainly not just me or one aspect of the program. We're very excited that this year we will be marching in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. It's a first for the university. We researched it because we were trying to find out if we were the first college band from Tennessee to be in the Macy's Parade. And we couldn't find anybody, but Macy's found an entry from the 1960s of the Austin P. Governors. And I'm not sure their band was ever called the Governors, so I don't know if it might have been a drill team or something. But anyway, Austin P had a group in Macy's in the 1960s. But other than that, we're the first university from Tennessee to be selected for the Macy's Parade. And there are lots of wonderful trips out there. I took my high school band to Ireland for the St. Patrick's Week and celebration. There are lots of great opportunities for bands. A lot of them, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, if you've got the money, you can go. The two exceptions are the Turn Winter Roses Parade and the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. You have to apply and be selected. And it's not a simple process, as Mr. Cook well knows and is experienced with. So we have been applying for a few years, and as the band grew and we think got better, we finally caught the eye of the committee. And so we were very excited that several million people, I guess, with TV and online streaming will actually hear of ETSU for the first time this Thanksgiving. Another great opportunity we have is that our color guard and majorettes have been invited to open a performance of the Radio City Music Hall Christmas Spectacular while we were there in New York. And if you don't think they're excited, you should have heard the squeals and screams when that was announced. We are raising money. Our students are paying part of their trip, and then we are also fundraising and seeking sponsorships and things to support our trip. So if you are interested, we do have, some options for you or your business to be recognized as being a contributor or sponsor. I would be more than delighted to speak with you afterwards or at any point. But we, again, appreciate the opportunity just to come and share with you what's been going on at ETSU. We're the largest student organization on campus. It's a very welcoming organization. We have 113 high schools represented, 81 different majors represented. A lot of times students think, oh, I have to be a music major to be in the band. Absolutely not true. We have students from 9 different states. As you can imagine, pulling together students from 113 high schools and trying to mold that into one style, because they all come from different backgrounds, is a bit of a challenge. But again, we have amazing students and staff who make that happen. So we'll play, to finish up, just a short clip of our show from this year. We did a show based on the legend of Sleepy Hollow, but we tried to do music that people would recognize. And so since the Headless Horseman rides a horse, we did Ghost Riders in the Sky for one of our numbers. So we'll play you just a short clip from that. 136 new members as far as freshmen and income transfer students. So it looks as if we're going to break 400. So we had a meeting yesterday with the dean, the provost, and the president to let them know we don't have that many uniforms and instruments. So we either need to cap the band or we need some things ordered pretty soon so we have them in time for Macy. So we're continuing to grow and we're excited about that. And we're just very excited to represent the state of Tennessee this coming November in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Thank you so much for allowing us to come and share this information with you. Be more than happy to answer any questions, or if can hang around afterwards if you would rather talk or then. I know we've got several people that have told us they were in band. We love hearing about your band stories.